So it's been 12 months since part 1 on unloading the big lathe. If that machine hadn't been in my way, I would have dragged this outside and scrapped it. How you going, guys? Curtis from Cutting Edge Engineering. So today is part 2 of our big lathe. What should have been just a very simple unload it from the truck, bring it into the workshop, set it up, plug it in and use it has been an absolute nightmare. The day this machine arrived, our crane bailed out on us at the last minute. We did unload it with our yard crane and a customer's excavator in the yard. The day this turned up was also the day our Toshiba CNC milling machine turned up. So we did have another Frenner coming on site. They were nice enough to move the machine in the shed for us. It sits where it sits. This is where we put it. We weren't in a massive hurry to get the machine commissioned ready for work, being that we still had the LZMT working, and I didn't think there would be any issues with the machine. After a couple of months of the machine sitting here, I had a bit of work in the pipeline that would have been perfect for a machine this size. I had about a month to get the machine up and running into a working state. So this is the day we started to clean the machine. So what we all would have to do is clean it, level the machine, plug it in and get it going. I'd gone and inspected this 4 months prior to it being delivered. When I inspected the machine, everything seemed to be in really good order. There wasn't any issues that were made aware to me other than an e-stop on the carriage being broken. Other than that, the machine was in really good condition. Well, that company held onto the machine for another 4 months because they were having a new machine delivered and didn't want to pull their workshop apart twice to pull the machine out and then put their new machine in. I wasn't in a huge rush, so I let it go for 4 months. Came time to go collect the machine. I was due to inspect it the morning it was being pulled out of their workshop. When I got there to do the final inspection, it had already been removed from the workshop. Power had been disconnected and there was no way I could do a final inspection on it. Visually, the machine didn't look like it had changed at all over the 4 months. After the machine got cleaned, I got a Sparky in to change out the e-stop. I then plugged the machine in, tried to fire it up, and that's when we started to discover problems and issues. I couldn't get the headstock to fire up and spin forward or reverse. I then pushed the light button and the carriage took off, which I found unusual. I then started to go around the back of the machine and see if there was anything, maybe a fuse or a breaker had blown, something like that. Opened up the back of the machine and found all the wiring for the carriage had been disconnected from the machine. I then got in touch with the people who sold me the machine to find out what had happened. Told me there was an electrical fault somewhere in the wiring loom between the box and the carriage. They sent a technician down, to try and find out what the problem was. They made 2 visits here. One was a technician, the second one was the Sparky who actually did the work on the machine. They couldn't actually tell me what they had done prior to me buying the machine. I did manage to find out that there were 2 burnt solenoids on the hydraulic valves that control the forward and reverse rotation. I had supplied new ones of those. They did put them on, they did work, but then the second they drove out the gate, the forward and reverse stopped. While the technicians were here, I asked them why there was oil leaks in the front cover of the machine where all your feeds are controlled from. And he said, oh, it's leaking oil because we didn't seal it up good enough after we crashed it. So they had a pretty severe lockup. There are a few signs around the machine. I'm not exactly sure what happened. They didn't tell me that information, but they did say some stuff in the head of the machine did get bent up. And they had to remove the front of it to straighten out whatever they bent. And it was at that point that if that machine hadn't been in my way, I would have skull dragged this thing outside, grabbed a thermal lance, cut it in half and put it in my bin. It was only that Karen calmed me down that I didn't attack this machine and just destroy it. And also the fact that there was nothing around in this size, secondhand or new, available to purchase to replace it straight away. After I calmed down and had a cup of coffee and went and swore at the fence post for a couple of hours, I decided, because there was nothing available, I had to get this one working. So I started looking around for some machine sparkies to see if there would be anyone interested to come in and have a look at the machine. Out of the 5 I called, 1 turned up, gave him the schematic of the electrics in the machine. He looked at that, he said, I can't read Chinese, but I'll give it a go. But he was a 3 to 4 month wait before he would be back up here in Queensland to actually carry out the work for me. So it sat for a further 4 months. He went right through the machine. He ripped out all the wiring from the power box all the way through to the carriage. He replaced any switches that looked faulty or damaged. He is a very competent sparky. Exceeded my expectations just how far he went for me, considering it was the first time I'd ever actually used him. And he got the machine back to the way it was when it came out of the factory in the way of the wiring side of things. While the sparky was ripping out all the wiring in the back of the carriage, he found the problem, which was a junction box that had swarf that had somehow gotten into it, and it had bridged 2 of the contacts and it had started to burn out the wiring. Thinking back to when the other people had the machine, if they'd bothered to look for that sort of thing, which was in the schematic, they could have fixed it right there and then, but instead of doing it correctly, they did some dodgy shit and bridged wires and jumped this, and just to make the light button power the carriage. So what could have been a nice easy fix back in the early stages of the problems, if they'd bothered to look for it, turned out to be an absolute nightmare. We got all the wiring fixed, everything's working the way it was supposed to. Then I decided I was going to pull the headstock apart and find out what had happened on the inside of the machine. I had a good look around inside. I did go through and reset and adjust the gear selectors to make it come in and out of gears a little bit better. And I changed out the clutch plates because they looked to be pretty worn anyway. Put all that back together, put the face back on the machine, cycled it, went through all the gears. It's coming in and out of gears correctly. Everything's moving the way it's supposed to. I still have a noisy gear set in there somewhere. After I spoke to another workshop that has the exact same machine, he also mentioned that had a noisy gear set in a couple of the gears. So it turned out to be not a big problem. Those 2 problems sorted out. In the past 2 months, we've continued to set up the machine. So we'll show what else we've been doing. I changed out the hydraulic oil, did a bit of a filter upgrade in there as well, considering the standard filters aren't really good enough to filter out the oil. Being I'd just done a heap of work in there, I didn't want any weird, wonderful debris getting through the system. I also replaced the oil in the carriage because it looked to be pretty gummy and yucky as well. So I changed that out, pulled the bottom off it, cleaned it all up, put it back together again, put some new oil in there, and now it's time to get it ready to level it. And that was another drama in its own. Righto guys, so I did some digging through all the spare parts we got with the machine. I did happen to find the feet I thought I lost. I was looking for something a lot bigger, but I found 14 of those. Those are the feet that go under the leveling bolts. Being that our concrete in here is not the thickest concrete, I'd be a little bit concerned with a machine this size sitting on something that small to punch its way into the concrete. They're also quite low to the ground. The machine is very low to the ground. Being that I'm quite tall, it's quite difficult to lean over a machine all day. So what I've done is I grabbed a piece of 120mm scrap induction hardened rod I had out in the yard, and I've cut some new blanks. These blanks are going to be the new feet for the machine. They're about 60mm tall. I did want to get a little bit of extra height just to make it easier to work. So what we're going to do now, we're going to chuck them in the machine. I'm going to face them, cut a chamfer on the corners, take those sharp edges off. I need to put a bit of a recess in the center of it for the jacking bolts to locate onto. So we're going to get these set up in my jeweler's lathe and start work on them. Righto, so that's 1 down, 13 to go. Two done. We have to go and make some new bolts to adjust the height of the machine. Because the floor is so far out of whack down this end of the workshop, these standard bolts aren't long enough. They're only about 60 mil long. There is quite a drop in the floor as it gets to the wall, so we're going to need to make some longer ones for that. In order to do that, we're just going to use some standard M24 threaded rod, a couple of nuts. We'll just screw the nut on the end of it, weld that up, and we'll cut them about 100 mil long. That'll give us an extra 40 mil of adjustment, which should more than be adequate for that end of the workshop. So we're going to set them up in the saw, we're going to cut as many as we can, throw them in the lathe, machine what we need to machine on them for them to go inside the plates that are going on the floor, take them over to the bench, we'll weld them up, and then I'll bring them back over and put them in the machine. this.
Whoa, what is it?
Squeaky dog toy.
Oh.
Look that. Nom nom nom.
Oh, that's loud. Yay.
Thank you for the noisy toys.
Yay.
So after all the feet were made and the new jacking bolts, put them under the machine, and then I've got to go through and level it. And leveling the machine was a whole nother lengthy process. A way to level a machine, this is not the only way, but this is the way I do it. Go through and stone the surfaces. Stone the surface of your blocks so they're all nice and flat. I use 1, 2, 3 blocks. I like to set my blocks up on a nice straight parallel edge, so down here on the inside of the ways, and then set it on the inside of the way on the other side. I then use a precision scraped straight edge, sit that across the blocks, and then I like to sit my level on top of that. The level is accurate to within 0.02 of a millimeter over 1 meter. Very accurate, and it's very touchy. A sheet of paper will be enough to upset the level. The way I level a machine, I will level across the length first to get it sitting level on the floor. Then I will come back to each of the jacking bolt positions. I will set the level across the top of them, and then I will level the machine from there. And I will work until I reach the other end, and then I come back to the beginning and I check it again. Because sometimes jacking one bolt at one end can upset the balance on the other end of the machine. So we've got the machine level now, but then there's another process to align the headstock to the tailstock, which we are yet to do. Now that all that stuff's done, we can finally fire up the machine. One of the other things I was having trouble trying to find were the wave wipers. No one from our local machine shops could help us, but my brother's pretty good with a 3D printer. He managed to find the right material to use to 3D print new wave wipers. So I now have a full set on this machine and a spare set, and he's also going to do the rest of the machines in the workshop as well. There are a few other little bits and pieces I would like to do to the machine. I am going to hook up the coolant system. I'm also going to fit a new light, and at some stage I am going to fit a digital readout to it. But as it is now, the big lathe is ready for some jobs. Oh.
Yeah.
Are we're going to let the cat out of the bag? Show them what else we've got?
Yeah, righto.
While you're here watching, there's a machine we're not going to be able to hide in upcoming videos because of how big it is. It's pretty much here on holidays. It belongs to a friend of mine, so there it is. As you can see, it is a Mazak, it's a V20, it is a CNC vertical milling machine. A friend of mine has just purchased a new machine to go into his workshop. He does not have the room out there to store this, being that the new one took this one's place. So it's here in retirement, it's having a holiday. I've got the room, I can hook it up to power for him. Of course we can't hide that because of its sheer size, and it's going to be in the background of everything. It's going to sit here until such time as we work out what we're doing with it. We? Him? Right, so the day we unloaded the machine, fuck, I've lost it.
What? You've done 2 words.
No, it's bad. What were we starting with? And...
Oh my god.
So, yeah. Fucking lost it again. So, all in all... Fuck, where are we going with that?
I don't know.
Right. Well, where are we going from there? Wait, what? So... Fuck. So I changed out. Oh, fuck. So I changed out all the filter. So we're going to get these.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm going to do it. To 3D print new wave wipers for the machine. So I now have a full set on this machine and a spare set, and he's also going to do the rest of the machines in the workshop as well.
Can you use lathe instead of machine every now and then? That I think you said machine about 10 times.
Just not.
So what did you need that for? So you can top it up.
Yeah, so you can't put them in full.
Okay.
I learnt the hard way with that one.
Aha.
Power this bitch up.